Welcome to another episode of Top Lines and Tails, the nation's favourite livestock podcast. And I will have to admit that I've got a huge apology to make to all you listeners out there that this has been the first one now for 2 or 3 months, the Top Lines and Tails podcast, because I've been really busy writing books. I've written a couple of history books going on. I've been doing podcasts for the Texel Sheep Society's 50th birthday. There's been a lot of things going on and I just didn't quite find the time. So I've had a little bit of a sabbatical, although it wasn't a holiday, I assure you. But it's been good hearing from so many listeners, and it was great to see so many people at the Royal Highland Show a few weeks ago, and everybody said, come on, we need our podcast back for our Friday fix. So we're back. Top Lines and Tails is back by popular demand. And we'd like to thank Harborough for their continued support. And Harborough, of course, are not only suppliers and manufacturers of high-quality nutrition and nutritional advice all over Scotland now as they've branched out into the southwest, but Harborough are also involved in the cereals, and harvest is soon approaching. So Harborough can offer everything from pro-grain to their maximum treatment, and the team currently have offers running. So make sure you get in touch with Harborough's team there and don't miss out. So this week on Top Lines and Tails, and it's been a long time in our absence, we've got a farmer and breeder from Kirriemuir there in Lindertis Estates. We've got Tom Hopkinson. Tom, welcome to Top Lines and Tails.
Hi, Andy. Thank you very much for having me.
And Tom, you run Lindertis farm or estate, I'm not quite sure which you call it there, and tell us a little bit more about Lindertis there in Kirriemuir.
Yeah, so I run my little section of Lindertis Farms. It's very much a family affair. So, we're a mixed farm just outside Kirriemuir, and we have arable crops, soft fruit crops, and obviously the cattle side of the business as well. On top of that, we run 2 different contracting companies. So, Arable Ventures, it's a stubble-to-stubble contracting company that kind of takes in a lot of contract farming agreements within Angus and Tayside. And then also Angus lime stores. So that's a lime merchants and spreading contractors. Okay. So we deliver lime throughout the whole of Scotland and spread throughout Tayside. Okay,
maybe I'll go on to the side of the business in a second then. And when did you come into the business yourself, Tom? What's your background?
So I left school in 2003. I did a bit of traveling, went around the world, worked in a few different countries. And then I worked for a stint down in the south of England for the Rothschilds, just outside Aylesbury. Did a little while down there. When I finished up down there, I came home and I did a bit of work for a soft fruit processor. So I was a logistics manager for that for a little while. And then after that, I came home full-time, probably 2007, I would have said.
Okay.
So we've always worked at home from a young age. You were always the cheap labour in the school holidays. But probably full-time 2007, 2008, something like that.
Okay, and of course, as well as the Angus herd and the other businesses you run there, the name Lindertis is very synonymous with history. Those of you people listening in will have heard the name Lindertis with Angus, and of course, that goes back to a particular bull called Lindertis Evulse, who holds a massive place marker in history as the most expensive Angus to be sold at auction, and that was in 1963, of course, when he made 60,000 guineas, and the estate probably wasn't worth much more than that in those days. It's a lot of money back then, wasn't it, Tom?
It was a lot of money back then. I know the Adams tell a particular story where they sold a bull for 28,000 guineas, I think it was, and there was a farm next door to us was on the market the same day at 28,000 guineas. It'd be an expensive bull nowadays if you could buy the farm next door for one bull sold.
You're right. I remember Tom Brewer saying that when they sold the bull for 27,000, I think in 1959, and saying they bought something like they could buy like 200 tractors with the same money. You see, that puts it into a little bit of perspective, doesn't it? And I go back to that name, Lindertis, and of course that's the family there. You're a Hopkinson, but the family, of course, is the Munro family, and Sir Torquil Munro would have been your grandfather, I think.
That's correct, yeah. So my father's father, my grandfather, he was Nick Hopkinson, and they farmed down south. And my granny was Fiona Munro.
Okay.
So they married, and for a while, I believe they farmed both sides, so the English side and the Scottish side. But I believe sometime long before my existence, they sold the farm down south and moved everything north of the border, and farmed up here.
And of course, they had John Rugg, and again, those of you that know will have known John Rugg, and of course that's Bert Rugg's father. A lot of people will know Bert Rugg, very synonymous there, and smart stockman. And John Rugg, likewise as well, would have gone into as farm manager at Lindertis. Well, as herd manager, I think, not farm manager at Lindertis, and run the Aberdeen Angus cattle, or brought the Aberdeen Angus cattle back in, I think, in the late 50s, and say that bull just. I wouldn't say it was a one-off, but he certainly he put the place on the map.
Yeah, he definitely did that. Yeah, I believe they had some small success before that, but yeah, I can't remember the name of the bull, but I know there was a bull sold to Australia that won a couple of competitions back to back, which had never been done before.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Evulse bull certainly put us firmly on the map as far as the Aberdeen Angus go.
And I'm right in thinking
for all the wrong reasons for being infertile, but.
There's a whole story behind Evulse that a lot of people will know and have seen, and I'll do a sneaky wee plug there. My book Cash Cow that I wrote was very much about the Lindertis Evulse story, and Evulse's mother, I think, or auntie, certainly won the Royal Show the year before. So yeah, Lindertis was a big name, and then the herd would have been dispersed later on. So it's quite a short-lived herd, I think, a little bit. And we'll go on to you going back into Angus again, Tom, in the more recent time. But I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other history of your family. And again, people listen to this podcast, maybe not Angus enthusiasts, will know the name of Sir Hugh Munro. And Sir Hugh Munro, of course, would be your great-grandfather, was a very famous mountaineer. And anybody that's been into Scotland and heard the word Munro, it's synonymous with, of course, all the mountains in Scotland that are over 3,000 feet. So that's in your history as well, Tom.
Yeah, so 3,000 feet for Munro's. Yeah, so yeah, I believe he didn't quite climb all of them himself. I believe he was too short before he passed away. But yeah, that's quite a good legacy there for us, and sometimes gets us into trouble with the local keepers when they find out it's our fault there's so many people running around the hills. But.
And you say he didn't quite climb them all, but I think there's 300 or very nearly 300 Munros in Scotland. So yeah, a fantastic achievement, and a fantastic history in your background. And you've sent me a few photographs, I know, of one or two of the older things there. And have you got a big library of photographs? Is there a legacy that's left there around about Lindertis of some of the stuff that he did?
Unfortunately not. A lot of the stuff was lost in a fire, which is a bit disappointing. We do have the original barometer that he used when he was climbing the hills, which I believe is in one of the museums. But yeah, unfortunately we don't have a lot of history on either the cattle side or the Munro Hill side, as it was all sadly lost. But
such a shame. And Sir Hugh, I think, was the fourth baronet of Lindertis there. Are you a baronet? Has that come down to you, or is that still in the family?
No, that didn't get passed down, no.
Okay.
So that there's other titles that came through the Hopkinson side of the family, but no, the Munro side didn't get passed down that way.
Okay. And the 16th century Lindertis house was eventually converted into flats, I think, and demolished in the 80s. Is there any sign of where that was now? It was a magnificent place. I'm sure you've seen pictures of it.
So some of the trees that you can see in the pictures are still there, but you can see where the house was, but there's certainly no structure there anymore. That was all completely demolished back in the 80s, I think it was, the early 80s. Mm-hmm. A lot of the local farmers remember running around the halls when it was deserted, and I think that's one of the reasons they decided to knock it all down. Just there was a lot of people playing in there, and they didn't want anyone to get hurt, so they decided just to demolish it finally. So yeah, there's nothing there.
And it's such a shame, isn't it, really, when we see these old ancestral homes that did fall into disregard and disarray. But it was very hard back in those days. The maintenance on things like that, running it from a farm budget as well, would have been absolutely astronomical to try and keep those places going.
Yeah, no, it would have been, you look at it and you think, oh, how sad it's gone. But at the same time, I wouldn't like to have to run it. But yeah, we're quite fortunate. There's some people that have quite a strong connection with it as a local pair of sisters that grew up there. and they've done a lot of work gathering up old pictures and all sorts of old stories about the house, and they've put it on a local website. So it's nice to be able to see some of the old pictures of, more than just the front. You get a full kind of look at what the house was back in its day.
Incredible, incredible. And I found a video, which I think I sent to you the other day, which I'll post online actually, of sort of some areas of somebody took I say a video back then, because a cine film of the areas around about the place, and a beautiful part of the world. I have to say that it is where you are, Tom.
We're very fortunate. We're very fortunate. We live in a nice, quiet little part of the country, nice and green and lush. And then, the big cities of Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Glasgow, they're all within an hour's drive, maybe Glasgow a little bit more. But yeah, we're quite fortunate where we are.
And doing a little bit of research on you, I came across the words the Adams family, and I believe there's some connection. Would I be right in thinking there's some connection through your mother's side?
Right,
Would that be right?
That's right. So Morticia Adams was based on one of my relations by marriage, I believe. So yeah, I think that was her next husband was the chap that wrote the Adams Family. And if you look at the end of the film, there's an acknowledgement to I can't remember her first name, but it's Mrs. or Lady Colleton, and that's the family connection there. So.
I think it ain't Barbara, if I remember looking it out. So
I think that's right. I think it is Barbara.
A pretty incredible history where you've got one great grandfather that founded all the Munros in Scotland, and another great grandmother that was part of the Adams family there. It's a bit of a legacy, big shoes to fill, I think, there, Tom.
Yeah, we've got a lot to live up to, and we're maybe slipping on that front. But,
And let's go on to your own business. We'll talk about your love of Angus cattle, and you've built a great herd of Angus cattle. Tell us a little bit more about how your Angus cattle got started.
So when I came home, we were calving about 110, 120 cows, mostly to Charolais and Simmental bulls. My father was keen to move to calving at 2, and using an Angus bull then came in because we didn't want to use the Simmental or the Charolais over a yearling heifer. So we started buying Angus bulls at that time. The first bull we sourced was from John Lascelles Senior at Balmackie. And from then it just kind of the Angus influence in our herd grew. We saw the ability of the breed to produce what we want as an end product, an animal that can thrive at grass, fairly hardy, easy management, no disbudding or anything like that. And then when you add in so we're in the Tesco's contract, when you add in the Angus bonus, it's kind of hard to think of having any other breed. Mm-hmm. So back about 5-6 years ago, we sold all our Simmental bulls, all our Charolais bulls, and we just concentrated on Angus bulls. And the bulls side of it has always been a thing I've really enjoyed. So when we moved away from the Simmental and the Charolais breeds, we were doing bull beef at that time. So when we moved to an Angus, we cut all the calves, and we rubber ringed them at birth. And I kind of missed the bull side of things. And chatting to a few kind of fellow breeders, they really kind of got the bug in me to get back into it again. So I think it was November 2017. I had a sit down with my father, and we agreed it would be a good idea just to start a small pedigree herd, just to try and produce our own stock bulls. And if there was a surplus of quality bulls there, we could then sell those on as breeding bulls. And then the bug really, got its hooks in. And, from an original idea of having a dozen, good cows, we've ended up with, nearly 70, 80 pedigree cows in the herd today. So, yeah, it's. I was warned when I went in that it becomes addictive.
I think I might have warned you myself, but you're in amongst, of course, in the county of Angus, of course, and you're in amongst some damn good local breeders. You mentioned John Lascelles, sort of. I think John Lascelles might be in. Is he still in Angus as well? Yes, just about, I think. And of course, you've got Dave Murray there. You've got the legends right. of Bert Taylor and of course. Great stocksman. You've got Graham Fraser. You've got a lot of good breeders around there. And were they on hand to help you when you got going?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. They've all been great. The Adams at Newhouse, they're 2 farms south of us.
Okay.
And they've been great. Anytime I've had a question, Andrew and Bob and Kay, they've all been fantastic. James as well. All the breeders, we've been along to Idvies and Graham's such a great guy. He's, they're all very encouraging. No, you'd worry coming in that it would be a lot of kind of, competition between breeders, but it's not at all. It's, everyone's very supportive of everyone else, which has been really nice.
No, I think that is the thing with pedigree breeding, especially seeing a sort of a youngster like yourself coming into the breed, and then that now is what 8-9 years ago, and you can tell us in your own words you've made a decision now to have a dispersal this year. Is that, or shortly, should I say, is that the whole herd going away?
It is, yeah. So that's been a discussion now for 3 years amongst the family. Obviously, we have quite a few different things going on, and we have a few future projects, one of which in particular will have quite a big impact on the area that we currently use for silage production for the herd. So it's been something we've talked about for a long time. If we're ever going to do it, now's the time to do it. And we're trying to make this decision with our heads rather than our hearts. I think if we were doing it with our hearts, there'd be no chance of it happening. But I think moving forwards, we've all got young families, and we kind of need to strike a slightly better work-life balance. So yeah, we've made the tough decision to sell both the commercial herd and the pedigree herd as well.
And
so
you
it's a
say,
proper full dispersal. Nothing is being retained.
okay, and you say we, is that have you got siblings also in your father still in the business as well? I mean,
Yeah, very much so. As I said at the start, it's a very family-run affair. My brother he runs the stubble-to-stubble contracting business, Arable Ventures Limited. My father, he's still very involved in the whole estate. So yeah, we're quite fortunate where we have space that we can have our own enterprises, but we did definitely come together for the big decision making. And it's a family made decision.
Okay, and we'll go on to just what's going to be in your sale in a minute. But you mentioned the lime business early on. Is that something of your own? That's something that you got started in, Tom? Are you involved in that one?
Yeah, so that's something I run as well. So we bought that in September 2016. So yeah, my wife and I run that side of the business. And yeah, that keeps us on our toes. So we're busy at the springtime and the back end after harvest, getting lime on, trying to get a quick turnaround for farmers so they can get crops back in the ground again.
Mm-hmm. And you're running some fairly hefty machinery of your own there to do that, or do you contract it out?
No, so we have our own machines for that. So we ran a fleet of lorries delivering lime out to site, and then we spread that with 4 self-propelled machines.
Okay.
We're making changes there as well. We're moving away from running our own fleet of lorries, and we're now taking lime straight from quarries straight to farm. And then we turn up. We have self-propelled machines that turn up with a forklift. And we're a completely self-contained unit. We can load ourselves, get the job done for the farmer, and then move on to the next job.
Just tell us a little bit about the lime side of it then. I know we're a livestock podcast, but let's sort of through the arable side. I remember us always spreading lime on the field. Is that something, how often does a farmer need to spread lime? Does it depend where they are, depend on the soil, or is it a necessity everybody needs to do?
Very, very much so. Lighter ground, heavier ground, it all has a bearing on your pH level. The level of fertilizers, ag chemicals, all these things have a bearing on it, and historical lime spreading as well. So, soil sampling is quite a big important thing for that side of it. So yeah, knowing exactly what your indices are for a pH, and then we're sitting down with companies like Soil Essentials, Soil, Agri-Eye. They come up with variable rate application maps that we can then download onto our machines, and our machines can go out and very accurately put the lime where it's needed.
Okay, so technology's come into that like it has to everything else, and does the carbon footprint come into that side of it as well? Is it something now? Is more lime being used, less lime being used? Is that encouraged?
I'd say more lime's being used. pH is very important when it comes to things like utilization of fertilizer. So once the pH level starts dropping down below 5.8, 5.7, you can really see a big disadvantage of the uptake in fertilizer. And with the ever increasing costs of all these things, it's really important just to make sure everything's in balance. So you get the optimal use of what you're putting on.
Sure. And tell us a little bit about the stubble business. You said your brother runs that. Just sort of run us through just what that does.
Yeah, so Arable Ventures, it was set up in 2014. So between ourselves and our cousins, the Walker Munros, who farm just at Kinnettles, the other side of the valley, we set up a stubble-to-stubble contracting business. So they'll come in, cultivate, sow, fertilize, spray, harvest, the whole lot. So yeah, very much focused around regenerative farming. So yeah, minimum tillage. They use stripper headers. Well, they have the ability to use stripper headers on the combines, which is not really a thing you see a lot of, certainly in this area. So yeah, it's a very forward-thinking contracting company, and they've been taking on a fair few kind of local farms that want to take advantage of all this specialized equipment, but might not be able to justify having it on farm just for their own use.
Sure. I mean, it's specialized equipment, read expensive equipment, I guess. There'd be a lot of money's worth, going about there, and obviously you've got to make use of that to get as much use of it through the year that you can.
Exactly. I mean, where we are in Scotland, our weather windows aren't great. So when you do get that opportunity to, whether it's sowing, harvesting, whatever it is, you just need to be able to get on and get a big acreage done in a day.
Been a challenging year. Good weather. A challenging year this year, then, Tom, I think.
Oh yes, yeah. It has been a challenge, that's for sure. I mean, right from harvest last year, it's just been atrocious. But unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about the weather. You just have to make the most of the opportunities you get and just be ready when you do get to get going. But I think, for the bad weather we've had, the spring things, as soon as those days started stretching out, the ground did start improving. People got crops in the ground, and I'm hoping it's starting to feel like a distant memory. But yeah, fingers crossed, harvest will be around the corner and things will start improving.
Let's hope so. And as we get into July now, we'd like to think it should have improved a month or two ago. But I know you said just now, still a cold snap coming through you just now, and we still aren't really into proper summer, are we?
No, I mean, Richard and I today were in the handling system there with the cows, and one minute you got your waterproof jacket on, the next minute you got your jacket on, the next minute you're in a t-shirt. It's just the weather can't make up its mind what it wants to do at the moment. But yeah, hopefully it will soon. So.
Sure. And you mentioned Richard, of course, Richard Retty, you're one of the most respected stockmen in the UK, I think. And has Richard been in and advising you in the past, or is he just taking over the running of the cattle up to the sale now?
No, so this is our first involvement with Richard. So Neil Cole was instrumental in helping us get set up, and he was fantastic with getting us, pointed in the right direction with breeders to contact for foundation stock. And when we needed to go find a stock pool, Neil's in and out of these, cattle breeders and farms and sales every day. So he really has the kind of the guys to go to find something good. He's seen a bull and he's got it noted down. So Niels was certainly great for getting us to where we are today. But because we're having such a big dispersal, we needed a big team to come in and get everything turned around. So Richard kindly agreed to come in and help us get everything ready. So that's been our first day today, getting the cattle all ready. Richard's been on farm 2 or 3 times since calving, just to have a look over everything, make sure everything's looking the way it should. So that was us making a start today to getting the cattle clipped. And tomorrow's the turn of the calves. So.
And despite the wet year, the cattle coming in fairly good condition now, Tom?
Yeah, they have. They're looking well. So that our cows are treated very much as the commercial cows are. So they're outside for most of the year. The only time they're inside is at calving time. So, they carry a good coat. They're quite happy to rough it. When the Scottish climate, when you say roughing it, you compare yourself to America or anywhere like this where they have -20. Our roughing it is fairly soft, isn't it? So, as the breed we're into, it's more than capable of standing up to a bit of rough weather, I think.
And is it your land will carry the animals outside? Have you got some fairly dry land, fairly sandy land?
We're quite fortunate. We're a very mixed farm when it comes to the ground type. So we have a section of the farm that's almost pure sand. And the cows can run out there all winter, and when you take them out, you barely notice that there's been anything in there. A little bit of poaching around feeders and the water trough, but the main part of the field is absolutely fine. So we have been very fortunate from that point of view.
Okay, and let's move on to your dispersal on July the 17th. at Sterling at United Auctions, and obviously you'll have had some advice from UA as well, I guess, coming in to slot that sale in the right time. Are there other things on the same time, or is it just you on that day?
So no, I believe it's just ourselves in on that day. So yeah, we have the commercial herd and the pedigree herd. I believe the pedigree herd kicks off at 11 o'clock. I'm not sure whether the commercials are before or after. It's something I need to double check. But no, we've had David Brown, Raymond Kennedy, and Ross Fotheringham all on farm a couple of times, just going over everything, making sure that everything is as it should be. So no, they've been very good at advising us when to sell. If we'd waited till October, perhaps it would have been better. But at that time of year, with the other aspects we have in the business, it just wouldn't be feasible. So yeah, we had to kind of pick a day in the middle of summer when we've carved them down. They've had the opportunity to get out of grass, get a bit of a shine on them, and then bring them in. And hopefully we've picked a time of year where everyone's just got that little bit of time that they can come up to the sale and have a look and see what we've got.
Excellent. And just I've seen a few pictures that you've put there on Top Lines and Tails and on the Aberdeen Angus Facebook forum there as well of the animals. They look some tremendous beasts. Tell us a little bit about some of the background and the breeding in some of these cows. They look some tremendous cows to me.
Yeah, no, we're very pleased with them. So when we first started back in 2017, we went to Blellick to buy 4 foundation females. We came away with a Lady Heather, a Blackbird, a Katie, which is the Christina line, and a Top Lass. So we brought them home. The Lady Heather was in calf, and the other 3 we sent off to start flushing. At that time, we were using Paragon. And then when the Chivas dispersal came along, we bought three more families from there. The Poetess line, which is one of the cows that you see up on social media, the Evanols and the Annabelles. And then so after we bought the cows from the Chivas dispersal, we got the opportunity to go and see David Murray at Wolf Law. He was looking to reduce his numbers, so we were fortunate enough to secure his spring calving portion of his herd. That was a big boost for our herd. David has some fantastic working cows there, a few different really good families, good hard working cows. From the Edwinas, Proud and Glorias. There was some Esmes that go back to the Cardona herd. So there's some cracking lines in there. And then shortly after that, we got the opportunity to go down and see Mark French at Cathpare at Stowe. He had bought all the cows from the Jerusalem sale a couple of years previously, and we managed to secure all them. And that really kind of really helped us get to where we are now. It added some more big families, the Missies, the Duchesses, Lady Janes, more Lady Heathers. So yeah, we've got quite a lot of female lines here, and it's nice to see them all doing well.
And you've got a red cow or a red line in there as well.
Yeah, there is a red cow. There's a little story behind her. So my daughter came home from school one day and asking for a pony. Which was horrifying. So
everybody's worst nightmare.
Yeah, so we went away and she got a red Aberdeen Angus instead of a pony, which she was thrilled about. So we dodged a bullet there. So yeah, she is responsible for the reds in the herd. So we went down to see Nikki and George Taylor at Moss Hole, and managed to secure one of the Essence lines from them. So yeah, that's the establishment of the reds.
Okay. And you've got a stock bull called Torquil, which I think is a nice little touch. He looks like he's done you a bit of good.
Yes, we did. So that was from our ET program. So yeah, he was from one of the Top Lass cows from Blellick and Haymount Warsmith son. He was an absolute cracking bull. Unfortunately, we lost him. He broke his pizzle and bulling. I think he was only 2 weeks into working that year, which was a great disappointment.
And obviously the cows were calves at foot, or some of them are calves at foot, or are they all weaned now? What have we got?
So the dispersal, all cows have a calf at foot, bar 2 of them. There's a first calved cow that I think she's Y951. She doesn't have a calf at foot. She unfortunately calved a calf in the bag. And then T802, which is a Duchess, she doesn't have a calf either. Calf went out to grass, and for some reason we lost the calf to blackleg, which is a bit frustrating as we use Bravoxin 10, which shouldn't we shouldn't have lost it. But for whatever reason, she did. So yeah, those are the two cows that don't have a calf-foot foot, but everything else has a calf-foot foot and has been running with a bull since the 20th of May. There's 13 maiden heifers that the auctioneers advise us just to keep free of the bull. So yeah, they'll be the only things that are not running with the bull.
And what are the stock bulls that the calves are by?
So our main stock bull is Roburn Jingo Eric. He's a bull we got from Johnny 3 or 4 years ago now. He's an absolutely fantastic bull. We were really looking for a bull that he wasn't too tall, bit of length, good shape, and figures. The one thing we were really keen to improve in our cows was our figures. I know figures can be a bit of a contentious issue, but our opinion is if you can have both, then why not? So we secured Roburn Jingo Eric, and we managed to get some embryos thrown into the deal as well, which was very handy. So we got some Roburn Lady Rose Roburn Transformer embryos. Mm-hmm. So that produced 2 bull calves, which we used in the herd. An Ellen Erica cow, which again is in the herd as well. And then from our other ET program, we have a Blelick Blackbird, a Blelick Lord Hertford bull that's been running with some of the younger cows. So those are the 3 stock bulls that have been running with the bulls. So you've got our Roburn Jingo Eric, who's, I believe, the Joy Erica line. The Lindertis Black Baron, who's the Blackbird Lord Hertford bull. And then Lindertis Lord Rollo, who is Lady Rose, who is Roburn Loaded Stam and Roburn Transformer.
You've certainly got some fantastic lines there. Anybody knows their history will be perking their ears up there. You've mentioned just about every good line of Angus that's in the country. You've really done your homework, Tom, to get into that. And have you been selling a few bulls away? Obviously, you had the herd going now for 8 years. Have you getting a bit of trade, getting a few bulls away into other herds?
Yeah, we have. So yeah, we've got bulls working in commercial herds, all kind of through Scotland, and then we've dipped our toe in the Stirling market twice. We had a particularly good February sale, 2022, and then we had 2 bulls taken down to February this year at Stirling, but we didn't get on quite so well. Maybe the bulls just weren't the right type. One was sold the next day from someone that was at the sale. And then the other one was sold about two weeks later. So, yeah. So we sold quite a lot off farm.
You got them away. Well, it sounds like you've got a fantastic herd there. You'll know my involvement with the Aberdeen Angus, that we've written a history of the Aberdeen Angus book that's due out just about the week of your sale. I should get some there for giveaway as luck pennies to some of your breeders there. But so I've obviously studied a lot of these lines, and as I said, you've got some fantastic lines of Angus in there, and just I'm hoping you get the folks in there to get that trade. So I wish you've every bit of success with that, Tom. And then next, is that you livestock off the farm altogether? You got a few sheep tucked around the corner somewhere, or maybe a pony?
No sheep. We haven't got the patience for sheep. So no, it's going to be a mixed emotions day on sale day. We're excited, we're nervous, we're upset, we're everything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's going to be a sad day to see all the livestock go off the farm. But no, I think that'll be it. Certainly for the next 5 to 10 years, we have other things we need to concentrate on. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for talking to us about that, and your listeners out there, your Angus enthusiasts especially there, please make sure you get yourself to that sale, and sale will be online. I'm sure the catalogue will be already online, I think, and the sale will be online there, and I'm sure you can give Tom a call, or Richard Retty for that matter. A lot of people trust Richard with Richard very much involved in the Angus as well. So there'll be people there and Raymond Kennedy, people there that will give a recommendation to this great sale. And I wish you every success with it, Tom.
No, thanks very much indeed, Andy. I really enjoy your podcast. It was great that you asked me to come along. It's thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure to talk to you, Tom.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Top Lines and Tails. And as this podcast this week mentions a few Angus cattle, you might have heard me mention the book that I'd written, and I'll go back to that. It's a collaboration between myself, Dr. Bob Hoke in Colorado, and Tom Burke in Missouri, and we've written the history of the Aberdeen Angus cattle for the US, the UK, and worldwide. That book could be found available on the website www.angushistorybook.com. That's angushistorybook.com. So go there and get pre-order your copies now, and the book will be available to be shipped round about July the 17th. And of course, we'd like to thank, as always, our sponsors, Harbro, for their continued support to the Top Lines and Tales podcast. And as you might have heard there, Harbro have recently taken over Murray Farm Care down in the southwest of Scotland, so we wish them well on that. And please get in touch with your local Harbro representative to find out what their range of products can do. I mean, this time of year, although there's plenty of grass about, you'll be thinking about creep feeding the calves to take the pressure off those cows as we head towards weaning time. And as I mentioned earlier on, they're also involved in the cereals. They can treat your cereals from this harvest. So get in touch with your local Harbro team and find out whether they've got some offers on, and see how they can help you with your business. And again, I apologise for the sabbatical that I've taken there, taking time off from the Top Lines and Tales podcast, but we will keep it going through the rest of the year there, so it's great to have you all there as listeners. And don't forget our Top Lines and Tales Facebook group, where you can find photographs and images and various other information to back up this and previous episodes and what's going on maybe in the agricultural livestock scene in and around the world.